One beautiful hot summer night, a teenage girl named Julie was swimming with her boyfriend in the family pool. They decided to go skinny dipping. Her boyfriend stood behind her and wrapped his arms around her. He kissed her shoulder as they gazed at the night sky and dreamed of their future together. A few minutes later, they heard a strange noise that seemed to be coming from the bushes. Just then, Julie turned her head to kiss her boyfriend, but she didn't see anything behind her. She twirled around and realized that her boyfriend's head was missing. It had been cut off. She screamed and his headless corpse sank to the bottom of the pool. In a panic, she scrambled out of the pool and ran inside the house to warn her parents. When she got to the kitchen, she came face to face with her stepfather, who was washing his bloody hands in the sink. One night, my friend and I were driving around the neighborhood. It was late and the streets were deserted. All of a sudden, we noticed someone walking along the sidewalk ahead of us. The person was wearing a black jacket with a hood. There was nothing unusual about it, but when we looked down, we realized that the figure didn't have any legs. It didn't seem to touch the ground at all, and it was just gliding along. The figure suddenly turned its head and looked right at us. We both screamed, and I floored the accelerator and sped out of there. We only got a brief look at its face, but we both saw the same thing. Under the hood, there was nothing but a black, empty void. It didn't have a face. There was a little boy who was afraid of everything. He had an intense fear of his bedroom closet. Every night, when he went to bed, he was terrified. His parents asked him what was wrong, and he told them he was afraid that there was a monster living in his closet. The boy's older brother decided to prove that nothing to fear was in the closet. One night, he got into the closet and shut the door behind him. A few seconds later, the young boy heard terrible cries and screams coming from the closet. At first, he was frightened, but then he realized that his older brother was just playing a prank on him. A minute later, the cries ceased and the room was filled by an eerie silence. Cautiously, the boy approached the closet and slowly opened the door. There was nobody inside. One night, I was lying in bed, and it was raining outside. There was thunder and lightning, and I couldn't sleep. Our house was out in the middle of nowhere. There were no curtains on my bedroom window, so I had a view of the fields behind the house. It was pitch black outside, but every time the lightning struck, it illuminated the whole landscape for a split second. All of a sudden, during one flash, I caught a brief glimpse of a figure standing out in the field. It was a man, and he was completely black except for his eyes, which were glowing white. He was just standing out there, staring at the house. With every flash of lightning, he got closer and closer until he was right outside my window, staring at me with those glowing eyes. Then, with the next flash of lightning, he was gone. This happened in one elementary school in Japan. It was 8 p.m., time to close the school. One teacher, who worked long hours in the staff room, packed his bags and left. He was about to lock the gate when he saw a group of dark figures in the distance. They were on the football pitch. It looked as though it was a group of boys kicking a ball back and forth.
"Hey, what are you doing there?"
shouted the teacher.
"Come on, it's time to go home. I have to lock up."
The boys continued playing and paid no attention to him.
"Don't pretend you can't hear me.
Shouted the teacher angrily.
The school is closed. Quickly now, go out the gate."
Just then, one of the figures kicked the football high into the air. It landed on the grass and came rolling over to the teacher. When it stopped at his feet, he looked down and the blood suddenly drained from his face. He was overcome with horror. It wasn't a football. It was a young boy's severed head. One night, when I was just a kid, I was playing with my brother and sister in the living room. My little brother suddenly stopped, looked out the window, and asked, "Who's that man?" We all went to the window to see what he was talking about. To our surprise, there was a pale white figure sitting at the top of the telephone pole outside. It looked like a man, and he was just staring at us with a huge creepy smile. Then, he simply stood up, jumped off the pole, and vanished before he hit the ground. It scared us so much that my sister won't even talk about it now. There were 3 boys in a certain school who were always causing trouble. One day, the 3 friends were hanging out in the hallway at lunchtime. They saw a girl go into the school bathroom and decided to play a trick on her. They locked the bathroom door and stood outside waiting to see what would happen. A few minutes later, they saw the doorknob turn. Then it began to rattle. They heard the girl's voice calling out. They chuckled and didn't answer her. She began knocking on the door and begging to be let out. They just stood there, laughing and teasing her as she pounded on the door. After a minute or two, the girl started crying and screaming at them to unlock the door. The 3 boys felt guilty and decided to let her out before they got in trouble. One boy unlocked the door and waited, but the girl didn't open it.
"It's open!"
he shouted, but there was no answer. The boys opened the door and looked inside. The bathroom was completely empty. They checked all the cubicles and called out the girl's name, but there was no response. There were no windows in the bathroom and the only way out was the door. By this time, the 3 boys were very creeped out. They ran out of the bathroom and down the hallway. They found the girl standing outside the front door of the school, talking to a teacher. When they demanded to know how she got out of the bathroom, she was puzzled.
"But I didn't go to the bathroom today,"
she said. One night, my aunt was sitting on the toilet. There was a small hole in the floor that had been there ever since we moved in. She just happened to look down at the hole, and what she saw nearly scared the life out of her. There was a man standing in the basement, looking right back up at her, and he had a creepy smile on his face. My aunt screamed and came running out of the bathroom. My uncle and my dad went down the stairs, into the basement and looked around. They didn't find anyone, and there was no other way in or out of the basement. However, in the dust on the floor, they found footprints as if someone had been standing directly under the hole.
Hey, this is the Grimtail Brothers. Make sure you like and subscribe for more.